Stocks advance toward best weeks since November. Stocks headed for strong weekly gains as investors cheered renewed optimism on the US-China trade front on Friday. The Dow was up 165 points as Boeing shares turned around to trade 2.3% higher. Boeing's turnaround gains in the tech and materials sectors pushed the S&P 500 up 0.6%. Tech shares also, the S&P 500 and Nasdaq Composite are each up more than 3% this week, though the laggard Dow has gained only 1.8% amid Boeing's troubles. The S&P 500 and Nasdaq were also headed for their best weeks since November. Stocks have been on a tear this year, with the three major indexes rising more than 11% each in 2019. Coming. This week's gains were largely led by tech shares, as the sector surged 5%. The tech sector, semiconductor shares rose broadly on Friday, as the VanEck Vectors Semiconductor ETF SMH climbed more than 2%. Broadcom shares, Chinese Vice Premier Liu He spoke via telephone with U.S. Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin and U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer, Xinhua news agency reported Friday. The report of the news comes after CNBC reported Thursday that Chinese negotiators suggest combining a state visit to the U.S. with the signing of a trade deal. Beijing wants a deal. U.S. AT&T shares rose 0.8% after Raymond James upgraded the telecommunications giant to outperform from market perform, citing an attractive valuation relative to rival Verizon. CNBC's Sam Meredith and Spriha Srivastava contributed to this report.
Raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.